Hello, 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 and welcome back to The 12. This is a show about the Women's Super League, aka the highest division of women's football in England. We're here to discuss all things WSL both on and off the field. Each week, we'll be breaking down games, showcasing stars, and highlighting important stories surrounding the game. My name is Deepti, and I'm here with my co hosts Marc, Thom Bomb, and Treb. And this week, it's about the competitiveness or lack thereof in this league. We have seen and talked about a lot how top heavy a lot of the European leagues are, and this being the English league, we'll focus on this one. But yeah, it's always been the three teams, always at the top, and our respective three teams actually on this podcast. Manchester City, Chelsea, and Arsenal, of course. Uh, and then we mentioned a little bit while we were talking about the domestic cups and the League Cup, how you can really tell a difference between the quality in play between even the WSL and Championship, etc. So we just wanted to dive in a little bit more about this topic and yeah, kind of just share our thoughts on how competitive it is, what can make it better, etc. Treb, why don't we start with you?
We're gonna start with right off the bat. Um,
We missed you. We got to hear you on wax.
Yeah. I missed all of you too. I'm sure you guys had to handled it well. Yeah. Because see, we've clearly had this conversation outside of recording. So this is now we're having it on recording. So I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. Well, but I just think that this league is definitely not as competitive as people want to believe it is. I said it. I think I even skeeted it before the match. I said that even if Arsenal win, I don't think we win the league or come close to winning the league. I think with the win, that would have taken us 4 points off of Chelsea going into the second half of their season, where their most competitive matches left are Man City and, if you want to be generous, Manchester United. And I think including Manchester United, despite the season they've had, is incredibly generous and thinking that they can legitimately go toe-to-toe with Chelsea and come out of there with a win, let alone a result. And I think that if that's what we're talking about, I've said the last several years that I think there's only two teams in the league that can legitimately look at Chelsea on a year-in, year-out basis and say, we can beat them. Whether at our house, whether at Stamford Bridge, we can beat them. And that's City and Arsenal. And, I know Chelsea did the double over us this season. I think a lot of that has to do with us playing from behind, given what our previous regime was doing at the beginning of the season. But I think all that aside, when you look at it objectively, I think I'm right on that. I don't think that a team, obviously like a West Ham or a Villa or even a Liverpool, and we'll talk about how Liverpool looked against Leicester. Even a Liverpool, I don't think they can face a Chelsea and legitimately look at them and say, we can beat them. They would hope they can, and I'm sure fans would like to believe they can, and I would like to believe they can, but I don't see it. And even if Arsenal had won this week, you're talking about Chelsea needing to lose 2 matches, essentially, for us to even have a chance on top of us winning the rest of our matches. So I think when you look at the league as a whole, I think the fact that we're here halfway through the season and we've already kind of crowned our champion says a lot, because even with the lead they have now, you look at that in the NWSL, that's not safe at all. 11 matches left, even 11, 15 points is not safe at all, given how the parity in that league is set up. So I love the WSL. I think it's a great league. I think there needs to be more done to ensure it's on the, and I hate comparing things to the men's game, but I think we need to make sure that it's on the competitiveness of the EPL, right? Because even on the EPL, a lot of having that amount of points is not safe at all. So,
and yeah, I think, well, one, you make a great point about, if this was the NWSL and there's still 10 games left to play, there's no way you would be calling the title race at this point in the season ever, even if there was 10 points,
even without playoffs, right? Because I know we have a playoff system in America, but I think just in the Shield race, you're not calling it over this early even with that lead.
Yeah. And then also, I think, when we started this at the beginning of the season, we were talking about how this could be one of like the most competitive seasons in like the WSL, and like based on initial rosters and what we thought about the teams and how each one started the first couple games or so, we thought there would be more parity. But I think we've seen as like the first half has played out that it's kind of settling back into how it always has been, or at least
Yeah,
how it has
Spurs
been
are
the last
who we
like
thought they were,
yeah.
Liverpool who we thought they were. I mean, teams like Villa aren't really rising up. Teams like West Ham are kind of staying stagnant. Everton are
Yep.
fighting off existence. Man U, I mean, they're having a phenomenal season, and despite that, their ownership is saying we don't really care about you and we don't even plan to invest in your future. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's not, the league isn't in as great as place as we want it to be in right now.
So I think that there's a clear stratification in the league, like with four team. Yes, like I think that you can probably say based off of the what's available, what's left on Chelsea's schedule, they're going to win the league. Like I don't see them like Manchester United is their closest competitor on 27 points. I don't see them dropping 7 points. Um, I also see that it's going to be a competitive race amongst three teams for those last two Champions League spots. Um, Amongst Man City, Man United, and Arsenal. That race will be interesting. I also am interested to see what, as far as United goes, their last three matches are against the three teams represented by our podcast. Like that's really going to tell like their season. And like, yes, they did beat City away at the Etihad, and that's a big win. And like, are you going to be able to do the double when we go to cross town to Old Trafford? Like, are you going to be able to nick points off of Arsenal? Are you going to be able to nick points off of Chelsea? Like, essentially, right now, United is in really good form because they're playing crap teams and they're not really playing in any other competitions. Um, I think that it's like one of the things that is interesting to me is like the competitions that the lower teams are taking seriously, like based off of their results in the Leagues Cup, you can tell that West Ham really put a lot of, and Rhiannon Skinner have really put a lot of effort in that competition. Um, and that's why they're facing Chelsea in the semifinals of that competition. That stated, like there's not, and like we've seen the disparity in talent level when teams have played in the League Cup. Like even lower level, even when Crystal Palace played in the FA Cup, like they dominated their opponent. Like there's even there's a lot of disparity. That stated, it seems like there's like a mini league of four teams at the top racing for three spaces, and then there's everyone at the bottom, and there's really no stratification amongst the bottom. Like I guess you could say that Brighton and Tottenham are like that second tier, so to speak, having been like as the only two other teams over 15 points. Um, but they're like neither of those teams are like teams that you would say that are in good form. Um, like Arsenal's result or Brighton's result against Arsenal at home seems more like an anomaly now than it did like um when they played them, and like we thought that they were a serious competitor. So I think that like you have a league within the league and then you have everybody else. I'm not sure that we are ever in the WSL going to see like something on par with the 2015-2016 Leicester City men's run. Um, that stated, like it does seem like there needs to be like some more serious investment amongst uh, teams that are quote unquote in the middle, and like I guess you could go ahead and you know count, call on Brighton, Spurs, Liverpool, theoretically, and we've seen Liverpool make some moves, but like they're not working, and I don't know if that's a result of um, talent identification, like not being like the right players for the system, or the system itself just needs to be checked out the window, and we need a new coach. After I said that Matt Beard was the best coach in the league.
It's
Never gonna live that one down.
it's interesting to me. So Liverpool, I think, it, mentioning Liverpool in this conversation is interesting to me because before Chelsea went on their run of winning 8 leagues in 10 years, Liverpool won back-to-back leagues, right? And that was the 2012 and 2013 seasons, I believe, or it might be 13, 14. Either way, um, you know, and after they won back-to-back leagues, they dropped to the point where they got relegated, and so now they're back. Last season they had a good season. We had high hopes for them, and then they kind of, obviously they stumbled out of the gate, and now they're sitting in seventh with 12 points from 12. We thought Brighton, might the way they started the season, maybe they could challenge for, top three. Maybe they could be in that mix with Man U and so forth. But they again, like they kind of hit that glass ceiling that you referenced to, and I think that glass ceiling is, I think, it's a result of continued consistent investment from Chelsea, City, and Arsenal, and lack thereof, or newer players, I guess newer clubs that are more recently investing in their women's teams, like a Brighton, right? You could probably throw like West Ham, Aston Villa in there, right? Spurs, right? And so I just think like I think it's just going to be difficult for these teams for a while to really break through, because like that legacy has been created, right? And so now, like when you're a top player in the women's game and you want to go to England, you're already looking at 3 or 4 teams, right? Like the race is already down to, there's a bunch of teams. There are more teams you're not considering, right? If you're a top player. And then like I was listening to this on another podcast. They were kind of making the point too. Like, if a player's mapping out their career, right? Maybe you play for maybe you play for like a Spurs or Brighton, you impress. Then you get scouted by like Arsenal, City, right? Or Alicia Russo, didn't she go from Man U to Arsenal? Right? And we've seen that as well, right? Like Lauren James used to play for Arsenal and Man U. I'm sure I can name others as well. So it's not a lot of top teams right now, and therefore, like those teams then can stack their rosters, which makes it even harder for the rest of the league to catch up. It's just a continuous cycle, and I don't know. I mean, like I guess like investment is the way of breaking that, but um yeah, I do wonder like how exactly the WSL moves forward, um just as a marketable product, because like it's great, as a Chelsea fan, I enjoy the success, but I know at the same time, I know that like if this keeps happening, right, if they keep winning, because what's also interesting is the last 5 leagues that they won were all by 2 points or less, and in a couple of those situations, they had to storm back from being down a bunch of points, right? And so now for them to have such a healthy lead halfway through the season, it's like, is this Chelsea going from strength to strength? Is Pastor going to take them to another level? Like, and obviously Chelsea again breaking the record for transfers, right? Last January, they agreed a deal for Myra Ramirez that could have broken the record at the time. And 5 years ago, they broke the record for Peniel Harder, right? Now, obviously, the fees themselves have changed, but uh, it is interesting that like Chelsea are right there, at the top in terms of spending, and then for everyone else to even like compete with Chelsea, you have to spend at least as much as that, right? So it's I don't know, it's all kind of a, I guess, kind of a vicious cycle, and the final point I make about the WSL, um, they've had a recent influx in money. That media deal that they agreed to was like a pretty significant one. It was better than the NWSLs, right? And so, um, I'm curious to see like how that money affects the game, whether it can make the league more competitive, or will these teams get better, but will there not be much change in the actual standings and the overall structure of the league?
Yeah, I think I really like the point you made about how the top three teams are kind of where players end up going as they progress in their careers. Whereas, a big name player, let's say someone who wants to play for their national team, you do see some of those in like what Tom said, below the top four league teams. But not many. Most of them are going to be in like the three that we just mentioned: Arsenal, City, United, and uh, Chelsea. But you wouldn't see that, like, you wouldn't bat an eye, I feel like, in the NWSL, if any big name goes to any team there, it would just make more sense where they fit in. It's not about who's at the top of the league, because any of them can be at the top of the league at some point. And so it's a good point how it is a vicious cycle. Like, how do you bridge that gap? I guess the answer, I mean, we've probably answered it, is just like investment, but I feel like some players or some teams have to be the first to take that step and like bring in big names and like whatever, make a splash name in order to start bridging that gap.
And I think to Mark's point about investment, I think maybe it might be a more targeted investment in investing in your academy. So like
Mm.
Everton for a very long time traditionally has had a very strong academy for women. So if maybe they take that, having a new investor group come on board and having all of this TV money, like maybe instead of like going out and finding that big name, they're going to find those big name starlets that are like 13, 14, and try and bring them to their academy and build up their academy and then like try and develop that way. And then they're like making fees on like, okay, well, Chelsea is really interested in this defender that's 17 years old. This at Everton's academy. She's already played like half a season due to some injuries. Maybe they go ahead and pull the trigger, and then they make some money on that signing and like reinvest and like maybe at that point try and like get a name, but not necessarily like a huge name to go with like their young ascending talent.
Mhm. Yeah, really good point. And these are all big Premier League teams. Like, they all have enough funding and enough. They have the means to put in the investment if they wanted to. Um, and they have like the name, they have the fan base, etc. So it's really about just getting there. And I think it's comes from all sides. It comes from top to bottom within the team. It comes from the fans wanting to support. Um, yeah, it everyone plays a role in like making the league better and better every year.
Agreed.
Yeah. Um, okay. That being said, shall we go into the results from this weekend?
Let's do it.
Okay, first game of the weekend was another 6-goal thriller. Aston Villa versus Manchester City. Man City pulled out the win 4-2. Uh, didn't start off super hot, but they got going, and Viv Miedema pulled him through, basically. All the goals were pretty nice, actually.
Every one of those goals like that was scored was just like, well, let me rephrase that. There were 6 goals in this game. One of them was an own goal. That one was not so great. But all of the other 5 were really nice goals. Um I think the first goal in the 6th minute um by Chastity Grant, it was a really good take. and the fact that she was basically just able to race Laya Alessandri off of the ball, like that is a problem. like I've never missed Alex Greenwood more than this particular match. Because Laya Alessandri, like it it became kind of apparent, like Sean Goder, and I believe this was his last match in charge of Aston Villa. He pretty quickly identified who the mark was and that he was going to pick at that.
Mhm.
Like, um, and credit to his squad. I mean, they were able to see the ball go in the back uh, of the other team's net twice. That stated, like, I think the first goal that City scored, that was just like a classic, like Fox in the box Viv meet him a goal. Like that's like why she is the league's, reigning top goal scorer sort of thing. Like you make a bad back pass, she's gonna jump on it and take like literally one touch shot, go in the back
Mhm.
of the net. The second goal, oh my gosh, like that, like it was just
Beauty.
a bomb. Like just it was like parabolic and everything. Sabrina D'Angelo had no chance at it. Um, and then I think what was so crazy is that in this, so at that point, like City's up 2-1. And I don't know, and I said this on yesterday's show for Shades of Blue, but I don't know what it is that's going on at halftime. I don't know if it's Gareth's speech, if the halftime snacks are hitting in an inappropriate way, but like you can't be giving up goals in the first minute of the second half. Like that's rough. Like
Mhm.
to do it in 2 league matches in a row. And then like it ended up being an own goal on Laya Alessandri. Just and I think what made me so angry as a City fan was like it was so easy, like especially after the way that you had to claw and fight back to get the lead in this match. Like you just give it away so easily. Um, so I think that then at that point you get the Mary Fowler goal, which was just
Mm.
I it was that one was truly beautiful. Like it was like one of those like Ethel Merman moments that like anything you can do, I can do better sort of thing. Um,
I was like, that's very
uh,
Viv Mitoma-esque. She's
yes,
like,
it
come
really
on.
was. It really was. And the last goal, she made the key pass to Kirsten Kasparai, who got across in. And one of the things that I really appreciated about that goal was that um there were 3 runners essentially. Like it went over Viv's head. Um, Jess Park was able to get her leg on it and score. And even if she wasn't able to get on it, Abba Fagino was at the back post. So like it City ran the channels very well to like put a lot of pressure on Aston Villa's goal. Um, I think after Mary's goal, like I'm a strong believer in um, once you see a player do something like world class and um like just something that you haven't seen before, you're probably going to quit. And I think that that's kind of what that's kind of what happened to Aston Villa after Fowler's goal. It was good to see Bunny and make a reappearance. She came on in the 76th minute, as did Caroline. Um, I'm really interested to see what the two of them look like together. I'm also re- um, I'm really hoping that this match proves to Gareth Taylor that Mary Fowler needs to be playing on the right. Like she cannot replace Lauren Hemp on the left. She's so much more effective on the right.
Um, so during winter break, I was getting a bunch of headlines. You know, like when you look stuff up and Google like sends you more stuff about that topic. I was getting a
Mhm.
bunch of like Mary Fowler headlines, except it wasn't really about soccer. It was about her like going on vacation with her boyfriend and whatever. And, like her, I guess taking mental health days or whatever. But has she got her groove back? Because I mean, that game looked pretty good. I thought she looked good in the previous match as well. And kind of, I feel like she was kind of tailing off in the middle of the season, but I don't know. It seemed like she's restaked her place as a starter.
Yeah, I think that part of it was that the team is like she's definitely not used to playing as many matches. The team as a whole is not with Champions League, and being able to knowing that basically she is the Lauren Hemp replacement after she got injured, that really hurt a lot, especially in the month of December. So she took the winter break and just recharged.
Nice. And then I have one more question about this match and more general, I guess. Like you said, it was Sean Goder's last match as interim manager for Aston Villa. They have Natalia Arroyo, I think is her name,
Hmm.
coming after. So I admittedly don't know too much about Arroyo and her style of play, but do you think Villa will improve? Because they had improved under Goder. Like it already seemed like he was being like able to piece the puzzle put the puzzle pieces together a bit better. So that's one. Will that continue with Arroyo? And two, Kanzadali has been traded to San Diego Wave. Um, will she be missed, or is this like a happy parting for both?
So looking at previous Real Sociedad seasons,
So she finished second in her second
mhm,
season at
right.
Real Sociedad, and they were and I think they were tied with Atletico before she was hired by Aston Villa. But like this season, she was right up there amongst. Or Sociedad, I should say, excuse me, was up there amongst like in the Champions League spots, competing. So she's also a former Barcelona player, and I think Espanyol as well. Um, and so, like, I mean, I personally, I'm kind of intrigued. I actually like this hire a lot for Villa. I think this is the type of hire that they should be making. It's that like middle club, not really in danger of getting relegated, but like it's that thing kind of going back to talking about like how do you break through the glass ceiling, right? Like,
Mhm.
doing something different outside the box. Like, I don't know. I think I don't know. I personally, when I read about like her background, what she did with Sociedad, I personally am intrigued.
I'm intrigued too, and I think that Sean Goder has left an interesting footprint behind in that like he was able to play like um, Daly, Gabby Nunes da Silva, Ebony Salmon, and Adriana Leon all together. Um, you wonder if Arroyo's sees that vision as well. I also I think that Rachel Daly might have 1 year left on her contract after this season. So like you kind of wonder like is the player gonna like hang it up? Like she's already retired from the national team. Um, so I think that, like they'll miss her when she leaves, and I think that they probably will miss Kenza Dali like in this interim period, trying to get from what um DePau had originally started to start the season, what Goder had been doing in the interim, and then to what Arroyo wants to do. Dali is just like such a versatile player. That I believe that they will miss her, but that stated, I don't think that I do think that they will be on continue on this upward trajectory under Arroyo. But then again, like I said, that Matt Beard was the best coach in the league, and look what happened.
Only time will tell. All right. Moving on. We already kind of previewed this one, but of course there was the London Derby, Chelsea versus Arsenal. Chelsea won 1-0 on a penalty that Gro Wrighton punched through. And you know what? Let's immediately start with that. We'll start with, and to be fair, I was at the match, but I was very far away from that side of the field, and so I didn't actually see if it like the penalty was a penalty. Upon replay, it was. I will admit that, but it does kind of feel like Emily Heaslip and the ref inserting herself a little bit, just a little bit. We call her the Chesky of the WSL for a reason. If you know, you know. But it was, I think, frustrating for me watching this because we as an Arsenal deserved at least a point. They started off really rough, and it was just like Chelsea coming after the defense and just shot after shot. But then once we got into the match, we had our chances. We just couldn't put them away. But really, it should have been like there were at least two where we should have scored. And so I that dropping those 2 points hurts a lot. Even if we like drew, I don't like I think that would have sealed title race for Chelsea anyway. Like I don't think we could have dropped any points. But like just losing and then losing in that way is the most frustrating thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, who we got? Who's going first? You want to go first, Mark?
yeah, sure, why not?
No, you can go. Yeah, you can go. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in terms of the penalty, so when I watched it live, I thought penalty, and then after replays, I was like, I wasn't sure. I honestly wasn't sure. It was like some replays, it looks like she gets the ball and the man. Other replays, it looks like she kind of steps on the foot first. But the the double yellow, like
I didn't even mention that. Yeah, that's
yeah, because it's like I don't know. I just feel
I gotta ask, Deepti. I gotta ask when you saw it, when you saw the first yellow,
yeah.
could you like audibly hear Katie McCabe yell "fuck off"? Like, because like watching that live and then watching the replay back, it's like, damn, like I don't even have the on pitch audio, and I can that's loud. That is very very loud.
Unfortunately, no, because of like home crowd was cheering, so we couldn't hear anything from our end. But I so it was a double yellow. I didn't even look at that. I thought it was just like canceled first yellow, straight red, but maybe it was double yellow back to back. But it's so silly. It's so silly. Like, of
yeah,
course, it was Katie McCabe, who, to be fair, like, of course, she's known as Katie McCard. Like, she gets lots of yellows, but she doesn't get very many reds, if any,
yeah,
ever. And so this, like, one of her few reds, it's just, it kind of came as a shock because I saw it. I was like already sad about penalty, and then immediately you see, like, it was Kim Little who like fouled the player anyway, and so you would think she would get a yellow, but then no, Katie just gets a red, and we're just like everyone's just confused at like what's happening.
yeah. It's like she was getting the yellow as she said "fuck off,"
Yeah,
and then so the ref decided, no, you
ref
got to
was
go
just like
back.
no, straight.
There was an incident before that actually, like a few minutes before that, where it was Beth Mead. Beth Mead was on a counter and she absolutely gets taken down, like like arm around the waist, like cynical foul by Neem Charles. No booking. Like that, and Katie McCabe was one of the first people who would be like, "Hey, what's up?" And like that's the thing about Katie McCabe. It's like she will she will talk to the ref, right? Like right or wrong, like
Yeah,
she's usually one of the first to talk to the ref. And I wonder if that was like part of it too, like, that like sort of internal build up, in terms of that dynamic between the ref and Katie, where she was like, you know what, I've had enough of you. But yeah, I don't know, just weird. To be honest, I didn't think that there were that many clear cut chances overall. I thought both defenses like kind of came up with like good interceptions, good blocks, like kind of really put out fires well. And it was kind of the match I was expecting because I think there was a I feel like both teams would have been okay with a point as much as winning. So I think certainly Chelsea would not have minded a draw. So yeah, I will say here's what I'll say. I don't think this will be the last time that Chelsea and Arsenal will play, and so I'm curious as to what Renee Slegers learned and what she would do differently the next time she faces Arsenal or Chelsea.
yeah. And actually, this was Chelsea's first double over Arsenal since the 2019-2020 season, I think. So we've always had very close matches and either draws or like one or the other winning. So yeah,
Mhm.
um, I think it'll definitely be some fire under Arsenal though for the next time they do meet each other. Treb,
Yep.
you've been quiet.
Oh, I was just letting Marc go, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's not much to say. I mean, like I said earlier, I thought even if we won, the title would have been pretty out of reach. I will say the two things that I took from this match the most, Marc kind of touched on it with kind of how Renee is going to adjust for the next match, but I love the way that he adjusted mid-match because like you mentioned, Deepti, like the first 10, 15 minutes, that press was killing us, something fierce. Like it looked like Chelsea was headed for like a 3-4 goal win. And for me coming into the match, my only hope was that they didn't look as bad as they did the first time, right? Because I think you have to split up Arsenal seasons into like during Jonas's time and then after Jonas, right? Because even a couple matches, those immediate matches after Jonas, it was kind of hard for Renee to get the team going and get them understanding like, okay, things are different now. And now they feel that. And this was the first kind of real tough opponent that they faced. And they looked good. Like I said, the first 15 minutes were shaky. She made adjustments on the fly. I love that. And then the second thing that I noticed was Daphne's the number one goalkeeper by far.
Oh,
That's not even a question
absolutely.
anymore. I mean,
Not even a
she
question.
had several saves that kept us in it. And, you know, I know Marc didn't see any clear-cut chances, but on any other day, I feel like Arsenal will probably take a 2-3-0 lead into half, if I'm being honest.
Mhm.
I mean,
But
they
that's
missed
also
a lot of like
yeah.
really close chances that they normally put away. Like I think on any other day, Arsenal are probably sitting at a 2-3 goal lead going in a half, and we're looking at a totally different game. But I think a lot of that, and I hate to say it, I think that was probably just a little bit of nerves on the players' end because they knew how big it was. They knew what the match meant, and it was their first time against Chelsea under new management. So I think you know, a little case of lemon booty got him in the
Mhm.
final third there in the first half. But I think Marc is right. I think we're going to see Chelsea again in the Champions League. If I'm Arsenal,
Mhm.
it's unfortunate winning the league, but I think a lot of what Renee's job had to have been, or any manager coming in after Jonas this season, had to have been establishing an identity going forward and building the foundation to that. And I think Renee's done that so far. And I think now the focus needs to be on the Champions League because we're still playing great football. We're still in great form. We still went toe to toe with the best team in the league by far. And it took a dubious penalty at best to beat us. So, like, let's not act like this is the end of the world for Arsenal. We can still go into Champions League, make a run, and I think we will see them again. And that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I want to make a couple more points. One, Arsenal did make one big transfer move in January. They are getting Jenna Neiswanger from Gotham FC to,
Woo!
yeah, I guess be on like with Emily Fox on the back line as a fullback, which probably means that Steph Catley is going to be center
Gone.
back now.
Or center back, yeah.
Yeah,
In her center back
still
era,
like
that's
permanently.
crazy. I will say before
Choose,
Tom gets started, because I can
choose.
see the hate forming on his lips. Do Arsenal fans do not let these motherfuckers convince you that Nightswanger can't defend. They said the same. It's funny how these U.S. women's national team players are so great and so amazing until they sign for Arsenal. Then suddenly they can't play soccer and they're blind. They said the same thing about Emily Fox, and we see what she's become on the right side. They said she sucked on the right. She didn't deserve to be there. All this stuff. We've seen what she's developed. Do not let them gaslight you. Jenna Neiswanger doesn't have to be the greatest defender to ever grace this earth. All she has to do is what Renee tells her to do and do it well. And that's all you have to remember. So go ahead, Tom. Continue.
Choosing to sign the two U.S. women's national team defenders that like to take leisurely strolls through the midfield is a choice. And if that is your choice to then make Steph Catley a center back, choices are being made is all that I will say. That is
But we also don't know
those
what
are
they're
some
going to look like going
choices.
forward, right? Because, like,
Yeah.
again,
True.
I think Renee's team, you have to look at it as they're going to, I don't think Arsenal are going to spend much, if any, in January. I think they're focused now fully on Let's do the best we can with what we have now, and then the summer is when we're gonna let Renee cook. So who knows? Like she might bring in,
Fair.
obviously you can't bring in Kerma now because that's done and dusted. But like she could bring in someone who's like, oh, okay, this is a legit center back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is funny. It's like Nice Hunger is just like Fox 2.0, basically, or Fox Light right now. But
That's why I don't mind
if
it.
it
I'm
works, which
intrigued
I
by
don't
it.
mind. Yeah, like Fox Fit has fit in super well, I think. So it works. Or hopefully it works. We'll
And she
see.
fit in well under Jonas. That's the crazy part. Like so, and she's been flourishing under Renee. Like I
Yeah.
honestly love the way she plays. But it's like I was telling Tom before the show, I think this could also be like a double type of move, right? Like I think with how Renee deploys the right back, there's going to be a lot of mileage on those legs. And I think if you can bring in someone
Yeah.
who's familiar with that style of play already to kind of act as cover, as well as someone who can cover in the midfield with Catherine Kuehl gone and a lot of the midfield depth kind of getting on the more veteran side of things,
Yeah.
I think it's like I said, I'm willing to let them cook and see what we got.
Yeah, that's a good point. That was part of one of the last things I wanted to say. Like still think midfield is our like strongest part of the field right now, but like you said, a couple of them are getting up there in age. And then we have a couple injuries as well. Like Walty just had I think it was a head injury. She had to be subbed out early a couple games ago. Um, Palova is missing, and I think we're missing her quite a lot from her ACL. She won't be back for several months.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah.
so there is a need, and I think yeah, it could work.
But we obviously need attack too. Like I think they need a winger in the
Yes.
worst way. Probably two, because I think a lot of fans agree with this. I think Mead is just not. I don't know what it is. I hate to speculate, but I just think her head hasn't been in it since a certain departure, and I think that she just hasn't been able to kind of get out of the sand from that.
I mean, she can come up north too because we need a winger too.
Ooh, what about a Mead Kelly swap? That would be
We had
fascinating.
talked
We wouldn't
about
need to
that.
swap, but
It
yeah,
was like
yeah, I could see that
But,
happening. I could see that
yeah.
happening.
Nah, Kelly won't move. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still missing that kind of clinical finishing touch. Yeah, there's a lot of chances that we probably should have scored. All right, moving on to the next London derby, we had Crystal Palace versus Tottenham Hotspurs. They were 2-2 until literally the very last minute when Spurs pulled out a 3-2 win. And it was on actually a very nice free kick from one of their newest acquisitions, Olivia Holt from Rosenborg. Rosengard, is that what it is? Sorry. And then I think, yeah, this was a very back and forth game. And I'm so disappointed in Crystal Palace because they could have gotten at least a point. And it's once again, it feels like they had it and then it just slipped right through their hands. And they can't do that much longer because they will be stuck at the bottom of the table and have to go back down to championship. And I really want them to stay up.
I want them to stay up too, but I admittedly I did not watch this match, but like it's not looking good. It's not looking good for the Eagles. They
You can't see me, but I'm making sad faces right now. I'm really sad about this.
They're going down. They're definitely going down, and I think
so.
that I think they're going back to like it's just going to be like grand opening, grand closing sort of thing. I think they might come back the next season. Based off of what they've done, against championship sides, like obviously they know how to dominate them. But I don't foresee them coming back up. I don't know how to say this, but like yes, they got the 3 points. Yes, they're sitting on 17 points, but like I feel like this match is a terrible indictment of Spurs' project as a whole, in that like you had to have a worldie of a free kick in order to win this match against Crystal Palace, who's probably going down. Like that's a problem. And then you have your manager on LinkedIn saying stuff like, first of all,
We'll
I
get to that,
need
Tom. We'll get to that.
I need everybody in British football to get off of LinkedIn immediately. That's just bad vibes. Bad vibes come from that site. I don't know why
When did
y'all are
LinkedIn
on it.
become Facebook?
Dog. Bruh. But like that, I mean, it's just it's a terrible. To me, even though yes, they got the 3 points, this result, like the way that you got to this result, is a terrible indictment of your club, and I don't foresee, like I do not foresee them having a, and I don't even know how to define a successful season for them. Like, is that
Yeah.
finishing fifth? Like, because even if they finish fifth, like, if the gulf between them and the fourth place team is like 10 points, like, does it matter?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, like, where are Spurs in their project is probably the question. Is probably the real question, right? Like, I mean, this was a matchup of the two worst defenses in the league. You know, like Spurs have allowed more goals than West Ham. You know, so yeah. To your point, like allowing to Crystal Palace is pretty bad, and yet they're basically tied for fifth. So, like, I feel, I guess it technically would be a success, but I just feel it also kind of feels like we're grading Spurs on the curve in that sense, right? Like you'd at least like to see a cup run, you know? Like I think they should be pretty disappointed that they lost to West Ham in the League Cup. But and then for Palace, I mean, they're 4 points adrift with 10 matches to play. It's that feels like a death knell, right? Like if we were talking about the title race being over with a 4 or 5 point gap at this point, then maybe the relegation race is too, you know? So I do kind of think it's over for Palace, actually, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not even the first couple matches of them like trying to get into the league that cost them. I feel like it's these last few and the ones against those teams at the bottom that they kind of squandered. Like they had their
Yeah,
chances.
I think that was really the key. That one run that they had that we talked about, like that like 9-12 point run they had where it was against people in like West Ham and Everton at the time before Everton kind of had a resurgence and a glimmer of hope. I mean, those not getting results there. And I think I don't agree with the fact that a 4 point lead is insurmountable in the relegation race right now, because I do think West Ham are truly still a bad team. But I think Palace's problem is they just haven't shown the ability to score on a consistent basis as needed to win matches in this league. And then when they do score like 2 goals against Tottenham right now, like that should be enough. Like that should be a win.
Yeah.
You know, like at the very least a draw, like at the worst a draw. But I think, yeah, I'm really sad. I genuinely thought coming in with, given how, like I said, given how bad we thought West Ham would be, given how dire Everton looked, just how Leicester kind of flip flop around and hover around the bottom. Like I really thought this would have been the year we saw a team come up and stay up, and I really thought Palace would be that team. But again, and I talked about it before the pod. If any team needed to make a move this January, it was them, and they have done nothing. So
Hmm.
I feel
Well,
bad. I don't think this will be the last time we see them. I think that they can go down, survive, and come back up, but I don't think they're gonna stay up, which sucks. I really was pulling for them.
I won't go so far to say that this was their death sentence yet. I still think 4 points is doable because they do have like all those reverse fixtures. Like we are only halfway through the season. There are still 10 matches to play.
True,
So
true.
there's a chance, especially considering that those like Everton, Leicester have scored less goals overall than Crystal Palace has. Crystal Palace may have like conceded more, but the others haven't scored enough either. So maybe, maybe there's hope. um. Okay, but like I just mentioned, one of those other teams, Leicester, did get a win this time and scored 2 more goals to bring their grand total up to
5.
5.
They have scored 5 goals in league play.
But they did beat Liverpool. Um, they were playing at home. I think they played at King Power Stadium actually, which was very
They did.
exciting. And they won 2-1. They conceded the first goal within the first couple minutes off
What a
a
yakety
yeah,
sax moment. Like,
honestly, an egregious error. And just even like so the goalkeeper Leitzig got a back pass and was just about to boot it down the field, but then Olivia Smith was in the way. Didn't even like, I don't know, she didn't, Leitzig didn't see her. Even Olivia Smith wasn't expecting it, but she just like took the blow and with her back scored. And yeah, that was just in the like fourth minute or something.
easiest
Um,
goal that she has ever scored in her entire life. Like, by far.
yeah,
Kids, you should always close down the goalkeeper, even when it feels pointless. Always put in that extra effort because you just never
always.
know.
And honestly, if you think about like goalkeepers just gonna have their head down to kick the ball as hard as they can. Like they, if you're coming flying, they won't see you until it's too late. So that's what happened. Um, but Leicester made up for it. They scored two. The first one was off a set piece. That one was a pretty decent goal, and then the second one, that one was funny. Mark, I liked how you described it. You just started laughing when you're like, they lost the ball off. Liverpool lost the ball off a throw in.
I you get to pick up the ball and throw it to your teammate. How do you lose possession in that scenario?
Okay, so I will tell you how you lose possession, and I will tell you why that was a really nice set piece goal. Ruby Mace was to me was probably player of the match in that particular match. She delivered on the set piece the ball into the box, and it wasn't like it was close. Like, it was at least 50 yards out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That
like halfway
delivery,
line. Yeah.
and like it was into the box with some height on it because they like got headed down. So there's that, and then she literally, like, Taylor Hines threw the ball in, and she deboed the winger off of the ball. Like, she's like, "Give me this, this is my ball." Like, and then like that just started the sequence of passing for Leicester to score. I thought she was my player. To me, she was player of the match. Um, Simply because, like, if you look at the statistics, like, Liverpool had 63% of the ball. They had 6 shots on target, 80% pass accuracy at almost 400 passes. They 68% pass accuracy in the other half, 74% accuracy in the final third alone. But then you look defensively, and tackles won, Leicester had 12 versus Liverpool only having 4. And I
All
think that,
match?
yeah, or excuse me, 6. But still, yeah, that's terrible. That's awful. And I think that stat line to me speaks to what Liverpool is missing in their squad. Like, they don't have anybody that plays with that bite, like that is gonna get stuck in a tackle. Like, they don't have a Katie McCabe type player. They don't have a Ruby Mace type player that's gonna get stuck in on a tackle and wants to stop you from scoring or from getting the ball past them. And I think that that's been their problem all season. Because obviously, to me, they have been to me personally, they've been the biggest disappointment this season.
I think that's a fair shout. And I'm kind of looking at like the landscape of the league now. Obviously we've had a couple coaching changes, right? But in terms of teams right now where they stand, like I think they have been the most disappointing, right? Like I don't think there's any other team that's in a position that we didn't expect them to be, right? Maybe Villa's a little bit lower than we expected, but other than that, I think Liverpool 12 points from 12 is pretty bad.
Mhm.
Like that's way below what we thought where they would be. And so it's for me, I wonder, like, Matt Beard has been here since what, 2021? He's been there a while, hasn't he?
But yes, and he was also the manager that won them those 2 consecutive titles that you just
Right.
reference. So like in a way, like shout out to Kudzi. She's the homie. I got to talk to her, and like in a way, she said that as a Liverpool fan, she considers Matt Beard a club legend. So moving on from him is going to be a lot more difficult for like hardcore Liverpool fans than it would be for us looking from the outside saying like, oh, you're not producing, like you got to go.
Do you think he's like their Arsene Wenger type thing where it's like he was so good at the beginning, everything was great, it looked like he was innovative, and now the game has just passed him up and struggling to stay kind of on pace with everyone else? Probably. I don't know, it feels like it.
I do.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
sounds like. And yeah, it's definitely hard to move on from those kind of managers because like fans
we've
love him.
gone from Matt Beard is the best manager in the league to will Matt Beard
He,
even make it to the end of the season?
correct.
Wow.
Phenomenal
can
fall off.
change.
What a
That's
time.
crazy.
What a time. What a time.
But
Anything else
yeah.
on this match?
Shout out to Leicester for winning their second match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well
And
done.
now they are 4 points clear of 12th.
I do want to mention the keeper again, and I'll mention it again when we get to United's match. But Leipzig, second week in a row that she has made an egregious error within the first like 4 minutes to allow the opponent to score. Last week, she was not bailed out by her team. They ended up losing that one 1-0. This week, she was bailed out. But that being said, I would still put her in contention for Golden Glove. And I was talking about this with you guys before, but I think it's just her feet that are the problem. Like, she's great at making the saves with her hands, but she's one of those keepers who is maybe not as confident with the feet or just like is way better with actually making those shot stopping saves. So I would still put her up there. We'll talk about Fallon later. Fallon maybe has it though. All right, moving on. We have West Ham versus Everton. West Ham won 2-0 at home. They're like a few places above relegation now, so they might be getting into that safety zone surprisingly, but they've turned it around in the last few matches.
I've been so impressed with just the way that they've like come into these like this even before the break. They were obviously doing well in the League Cup competitions, maybe not so much in the league. But I think that kind of carried over, and like you see them in January, and they've kind of just hit the ground running since the winter break. I to me, if we're giving out awards, I know that January is coming to a close, and this was the last match of January. Um, to me, she's probably manager of the month for me. Just uh, getting that team to really kind of believe in the system that she's running. And then just shout out to the Black Girl Magic and Vivian Asai. Uh, and Sanchez scoring those two goals. Martinez, Shakira Martinez scoring those two goals. The first goal was a set piece that Vivian Asai delivered on a corner. Martinez got the head to it pretty easily at the near post. Vivian Asai scored on a penalty in the first half, and there was no doubt about that particular penalty. Like Puyabel was definitely taken down in the box and is like, oh yeah, you're gonna get called for that. The ref kind of like looked at her, blew the whistles, like pointed to the spot, and like there was not a lot of argument from Everton players on that. But I do. To me, this was Rhiann Skinner's statement, like, "Hey, I'm here in this league still. I can still make this team pop, for better lack of a better term."
I just want to give a shout out to Viviane Saï. You mentioned she scored the penalty, so that puts her up to 8 goal contributions for the season, and she's tied for third with Mary Fowler, Elizabeth Turland, and Beth England. Only one behind Alicia Russo and two behind Buddy Shaw. And you notice of all the players I called, like West Ham is by far the smallest club of those. So
Mhm.
it's just cool to seeing players from those teams. Like those teams that are particularly like fighting relegation or trying to avoid it, you need like one or two players to kind of pull you through. At least you can like sort of rally around like, okay, we know that this player can deliver, and SIE's been that for West Ham this season.
Yeah, and we also saw on Everton's side a couple debuts from some of their new signings. Um, Gago and Watson both played. Gago played 66 minutes. Watson came on in the second half right after halftime and played the second half. Um, they actually, if you look at the stats, Everton had higher possession, higher XG. On paper, it seems like they should have won, but it was, I guess, a bit of like poor defending, just good play on West Ham's part, good keeping, goalkeeping as well, so that they were shut out. But hopefully, maybe as like these new signings get into the team and get playing with them, maybe they'll help boost their Everton's offense a little bit more.
Yeah.
Definitely to be determined, like because they definitely need it.
They do. All right, and finally we had Man United versus Brighton. They were playing in Manchester. Man United won 3-0. Another good win for them. This brings them up to second in the table. They are on 27 points now. That puts them above City and above Arsenal. Uh, they're still rolling. It's like amazing what they've done this season, honestly. Um, Brighton is still on the downward trend, unfortunately. They've been on this path for the last few matches now. Ella Toon scored again. She had her first goals of the league season in the last match and then scored one this time. And then Miyazawa also had a really nice goal and she had a great game. She was probably player of the match for me. Um, and I think I mentioned this last week. I love when Toon and Miyazawa are on the field together because I think they play off each other really, really well, and it works really well for United. And we saw that this game. And then Celine Bizet Ilsoy had a worldie at the end as well to make it 3-0.
That might be goal of the week. That might be goal. It's goal, definitely goal of the week. And like I I say this having seen Mary Fowler's goal, having seen Viv Miedema's goal. To me, that goal was goal of the week for the league.
And you know what's funny? So I had actually a couple friends send me that, and I saw in the comments as well of like the video, people are like, "Oh, what was the goalie doing? Like that was an easy save, blah blah blah." But that's only from one, like from the front angle, maybe it looks like it could have been saved easily, but there was another camera angle from mostly behind the goal, if you saw the spin on that, if you saw the curl on that, I don't think there's a way any goalkeeper saves that. Like that was such a good shot and like so perfectly placed with the dip and the spin and the curl and everything that I don't think it's that easily written off as like, oh, goalkeeper didn't move kind of thing.
The keeper didn't move because that ball was moving and it was
It
hit with such
whipped.
pace. Like there was like move for who for what? Like I'm gonna do the Manu challenge because that's what it was.
But that is one of the things of the women's game, though, right? It's like that. There's that space above the goalkeeper where you can sneak it in if that ball has the right curl, the right spin, right? So because like a straight up jump, like it's actually not that easy. And then,
Mhm.
like y'all were saying, she's trying to read the ball. She's probably on her heels a little bit, right?
Mhm.
She's trying to figure out where to dive, and yeah, it's not easy at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if it's a straight jump, like if the ball is moving that much in the air that fast, you can even like whiff it or miss it or just tip it and it'll still go in. Like it's
Absolutely.
But like we said, United is rolling. Fallon's doing amazing as well. She I need to look
United
up
has
what
allowed 5 goals all season.
yeah, all
5.
season.
5.
Brighton actually didn't have any shots on target this match, I believe.
They did not.
But
Their their
yeah.
Fallon didn't have to do anything because their defense was that good, and Brighton's offense was that ineffective. Like there was a chance that off of a set piece that Nikita Paris did sky, like she was in the 6-yard box and hit the ball and it went over the crossbar, which I don't know how she did not score there. But that was really the only dangerous moment that Brighton had all match. And again, that came off of a set piece. So they are truly, truly struggling. And I think, Mark, you did kind of hit it on the nail. Like their dip in form has coincided with Fran Kirby's injury. And I know that we think of Fran Kirby as such this dynamic attacking player, but I also think that she does some of the most simple, some of the very simple things of the game that we don't really think about, like connecting the back line with the front line, just shuttling the ball, moving it back and forth. She's very good at that. And I don't think that there's a player of that profile on Brighton's squad at this time.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, once back to Fallon again. She has 8 clean sheets in 12 matches. So that's her doing, the defense is doing. I know we keep saying, like, oh, United, this year they haven't had the backing really at all from like their top of house or even the men's team and stuff. So it's amazing what they're doing this season. And initially, I feel like maybe a couple of us thought, oh, it's just, a boost at the beginning of the season. But they've taken this through 12 matches now. How far do you think they can go? And I think personally, like we mentioned that, their last 3 matches are against our respective teams. I think those 3 and maybe even the final match against Arsenal will be the one for the final Champions League spot.
I could see that.
I definitely can see that. I wonder, like, in so many ways, this team reminds me of the 2021 Washington Spirit, a team that was just fueled by spite and rage.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and in a lot of ways, they have the perfect manager to do that. So like I wonder, I could see them like stealing one of that 3rd spot. They're not catching Chelsea for the league. Like, yes, they are the closest on 7 points, but I don't see Chelsea dropping 7 points over the course of the season. Like, they might, maybe 5, maybe, but that would be it. So I think that they can probably steal one of the Champions League spots. Deepti, I think that's a good shout that that last match against Arsenal is effectively for that 3rd spot.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at Man U's schedule, they're away to Tottenham this weekend, and then after that, I mean, I just think it's a bunch of matches that they should win until the final 3 weeks. So, it's like if they can accumulate enough points, can they give themselves a buffer to where they can afford to drop points in those final 3? That, to me, that would be the goal if I were Marc Skinner. So, but seeing where they're at now, seeing that they're 2nd in the table, just reminds me of what I said, I think it was a couple weeks ago, but like under another club, under another manager, this squad would be competing for the title. Like I think that this is a good team on paper, but then like as we've seen with the history of United, what comes next? Like obviously we'll see how the season plays out. There's still a lot left, but even with that, what comes next with all the financial issues they have and all that? Like, would they prioritize the women? Would they try to look to make money off of the women's team now that players are going for $1 million? Like, I don't, it's like it's on one hand, it's exciting to see a united team doing this well, but on the other hand, it's like I'm afraid to believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could believe in it this year, but I'm afraid it won't matter.
Yeah.
Right? Like they've already come out and said it's not gonna matter. They're not focused on the women's side, they're focused on getting things right on the men's side. So it's almost just like a lame duck season. It's like, okay, even if you do go to Champions League, you're not going to be given the resources needed to compete with it. So they'll probably get dumped out of it just as quick as they got there.
Mm-hmm.
If they even get there, because if they're, in that third spot, they're going to have to be a playoff team.
Right.
So, I'll be honest. I think this, not this week because Arsenal play another match before, but I think the City Arsenal match is going to be huge in dictating kind of what happens with United and where they end up, right? Because I think that match is going to kind of decide, like, okay, where are people fighting for? What are the spots that are going to be up for grabs?
Also, I would like to send a big fat middle finger to the Football Association, because why are we doing this again? This is the second second season in a row that Arsenal men play City men the same weekend that City women play Arsenal women. Why are we doing this? Like, I mean, yes, I have dubbed this Arsenal Hate Week, but why are we doing this? Like, this does no. Stop.
I don't mind them playing on the same weekend as long as they're not at the same time. I don't mind that.
Different days,
I don't mind
they're not at the same time, but like,
yeah.
I think the complaint, especially like for fans in the UK, is like they want to go to both matches, and like the fact, like, and it would be different if like you knew that even if it was like in the same weekend, like, okay, we're gonna play the women's match on Saturday at the Joy Stadium, and then we're going to play the men's match that Sunday at the Etihad, or even that Sunday at the Emirates. Like, giving the fans time enough to travel to that want to go to both matches. I think that's especially like in the UK, that's the biggest complaint.
Yeah,
like,
if they need to do that, yeah.
There's no way that, like, if you're an Arsenal supporter, that you're going to be able to, like, okay, even if you get on the train Saturday, get up to Manchester, like, once the match is over, you're not going to be able to, like, get on a train and get to London and get to the Emirates and see the men's match. Like, so and vice versa for Man City fans. So I think you're doing a big disservice to your fans by putting these fixtures together like this, unless you were going to separate it by a day, or essentially make it a double header at
one stadium
at, or
like
say like you
did the
did the
Emirates or something.
Emirates, or like even if you did it like
yeah.
even if you played the women's match at the Joy Stadium, like, it's not
that's right, because they're right next to each other, right?
Correct, exactly. I think that you're just doing a big disservice to the fans that want to go to the matches.
I like the doubleheader ideas for the top teams, but you're right. They have to do it in a way to where maybe have the men play on Saturday, women on Sunday, or vice versa. Like, and I get that in England it's a little bit harder because they do have like a kabillion domestic cups that they have to navigate around at all times, which, again, I mentioned, like, Arsenal are going to be playing a match tomorrow, I think it is, right, in the FA Cup, and then seeing City a few days from now. So it's like they're starting to hit a congested schedule. But I think in general, I think that match is going to do a lot in deciding, like, how these 3 Champions League spots are going to go, because I do think this is the toughest stretch for Arsenal, right? Under Renee so far is kind of like, or not even, I don't even think the toughest. I think this is like a repeat of what we saw where we had the back-to-back Champions League matches against Juventus with Tottenham slammed right in the middle. Like, you have Chelsea going into an FA Cup match, going into City like a few days later. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. But I think if Arsenal can at least get the result against City, if not get the win, I mean, I think City might be the one in danger. I think basically what I'm saying is whoever loses this match, I think they're the ones that are in danger of United jumping them for that third spot.
Fair enough.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm going to continue with what matches are coming up because we've jumped right into that. But like Treb mentioned, today we're recording on Tuesday, the 28th. On tomorrow, the 29th, are the last of the fourth round FA Cup matches. So there's Everton versus Tottenham, Brighton versus Durham FC, West Ham versus Liverpool, and Arsenal versus Bristol City. Yeah, whoever wins those. Some of the fifth rounds have already been scheduled, but yeah, the winners of these will move on there. And then on Sunday, we have a full slate of matches as well for the league. We have, like we just mentioned, Manchester City versus Arsenal, Everton versus Leicester, Liverpool versus West Ham, Brighton versus Crystal Palace, Aston Villa versus Chelsea, and Tottenham versus Man United. Yeah, why don't we do our usual? Which ones are you looking forward to?
I think in the FA Cup, I am looking at West Ham and Liverpool. We've already talked about how West Ham is kind of put a lot of stock into the Leagues Cup. I'd be interested to see how much stock they're also going to put into the FA Cup as well, especially against a Liverpool team that seems to be kind of floundering. And you get them at home, you get them at the Chigwell. You know, we big up the Chigwell over here. What do the kids say? Heritage. That is Barclays heritage. So I think as far as the FA Cup matches, that's really what has my eye. And I think what's so interesting is that in the Sunday slate, you get the reverse of that. You get Liverpool hosting West Ham in the league. So you're going to see that chess match that, Rian Skinner and Rian Skinner and Marc Matt Beard are going to play against against each other in those two matches. And you just wonder if setting, because it's home versus away, if that's going to change the style of play necessarily. Again, it'll be like the Sunday matches will be third match in 7 days for both clubs. So you're kind of wondering about legs. So a lot of it will be about rotation and who's available to play. So I am very, very interested in those two matches.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you play the same team twice back to back. And just like you said, the chess match from one to the next. Marc?
Yeah. So in the FA Cup, Everton versus Tottenham, I think, is an interesting match. I believe the winner of that match plays Chelsea, but just I think those two clubs, their specific journeys this season are have been kind of interesting. I think the FA Cup, there's a lot of value for both of them. Especially like with Everton with the new ownership group. Maybe this is like a cup run could be like an early feather in their cap. In terms of the Sunday matches, the league matches, I honestly that Tottenham Man U match. I mean, it's like, it's the second biggest match of the week. But I think there's a lot of significance in that match. Certainly, I think if Man U managed to win at Tottenham, I think that they could be looking at a pretty successful season by their standards. Like finishing top three, and then maybe a cup run as well. But and again, Tottenham, I think at this point, like they kind of had a rough stretch, obviously, when they played the top teams. I think they've recovered somewhat. I think they are more or less where we expect them to be, but like same thing, like a win over Man U, and it could put their season in a different frame. So, and plus, I just think that that'll be a really entertaining match. You have one of the worst defenses against one of the best, or arguably the best. So, yeah, be interesting to see who prevails in that one.
Yeah, agreed. And that one's being played at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Ooh.
So
Nice.
good environment. Okay, Trep, how about you?
I think, and this is no bias, I think the most interesting FA Cup match is going to be the Arsenal match because you're coming off of Renee's first loss, kind of their first stumble post Jonas. I'm interested to see how they respond. I mean, I feel like they should win. It feels like it should be a win, but again, that's what's intriguing about it. Are they going to come out? Is it going to be a struggle? Is it going to be a 1-0 win? And like they struggle to get there, and we have to worry about their form going forward to finish the season. Are they going to come out and thrash them by 5 and go into that City match like, hey, we're still who we are? Don't let that penalty kind of get you down. I'm intrigued by that. And then in the league, I'm looking right at that West Ham Liverpool match. I mean, if Liverpool lose that match, they are, I think, depending on how Palace do, if Liverpool lose that match, they're firmly in the relegation race, which is crazy to even say, but
Yeah.
they are because they're falling and they're falling fast, and it's in terms of form, there just doesn't seem to be any hope for them. I mean, Olivia Smith is all they have right now. Like she is all they have right now. And you can't depend on one player to get you through a season, especially when you have matches like this coming up. So I think in terms of WSL play, I'm really looking at that Liverpool match because if they lose, boy, is it getting real ugly real fast.
This is a crazy 2 weeks.
It is.
Particularly for Arsenal. So
Yeah.
you play Chelsea, you have your FA Cup match in midweek, you
City
go to
twice.
City to play,
twice.
and then you play the League Cups fixture at home. So there's so many matches in those 10 days.
All
that
the
are
best
so
teams in a
important.
week.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just the craziest stretch of the schedule, and I think that it will say a lot about Renee, the manager, how she handles this stretch.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think it's going to be huge for her. But I also think, again, as someone who didn't think a win was going to I didn't think we were going to win the title even with a win against Chelsea. So to me, I think losing that match might honestly help even a little bit because let's say they beat Chelsea. Now you're going into these City matches and an FA Cup match with so much emotional weight on you. Like, here comes the put. Like, you know what I mean? And I just think that for Renee right now, coming into this job, and I would have said this about any manager, but especially for Renee, I think the most important thing coming into this job this year post Jonas is to see how well you can do in the Champions League and build a foundation for next year. Like, don't try to stress players out. Don't try to ruin bodies. Don't try to run players into the ground going for a title that's been decided since before the old manager left, unfortunately, given the league that you're in, right? Like, if we're in a different type of WSL, maybe I'm saying something different, but I just think right now, like, maybe that loss was the best thing in terms of the long term because Tom's right. Like, this is going to be a huge stretch, and we need to be as mentally and physically sharp as we can coming out of it, just as much as we are going into it.
Fair enough. I think, yeah, the loss was, I think you said, like, good in the sense that we won't have to put so much effort
on a
into winning the
futile
league.
effort,
Like futile effort. But now the thing, like, besides the Champions League, besides the other cups that are happening, we still need a Champions League spot for next season, and we're not guaranteed that. So I think that should be like the
True.
focus of the league right now. Is,
Exactly.
that top.
And we can still
three.
get trophies. Like, we can still get an FA Cup. We can still get, I mean, imagine, like, I don't even want to say it, but just imagine a world where Arsenal win the FA Cup and then do the double with the Champions League. Like, imagine the scenes if Renee pulls off Champions League. I won't,
Oh.
man. You all are gonna get sick of me. I'm just saying it now. You better pray that don't happen. Oh boy. Oh boy. But I'm just saying,
Well,
like, it could still be. What I'm saying is, it can still be an incredibly successful
it
season
could be. Yeah,
For
for
absolutely.
Arsenal, despite such a disastrous start to the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, before we wrap up, just a couple more bits of news. The BBC is going to show, well, Tom, I'm sorry if I butcher this. The full name is the Subway Eat Fresh Cold Cut Combo Competition. Is that what we've named it? Cold Cup Combo Cup. Um,
Okay.
Oh, I
yeah,
believe it's the Subway Eat Fresh Cold Cut Combo Cup for the Footlong Trophy or something like
for
that.
the
I
footlong
don't know.
trophy. Okay,
Does that come with
amazing.
cookies?
Of
That
course, it comes with
Yeah,
cookies.
okay. I'm
Those
just making
Subway
sure. Yeah.
cookies, man,
They don't do much right, but those Subway cookies are
those
real. Like,
Subway
you know what I'm
cookies.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the BBC, they're going to be showing both semifinals. On February 5th is the Chelsea West Ham semi, and then on February 6th is Arsenal City, as we mentioned. They're both going to be on the BBC iPlayer, BBC Sport website, and you can also watch it on the YouTube channel, on the Women's WSL YouTube channel. So plenty of options to watch this match. It's good. They'll obviously be showing the final as well, but it's nice to have more broadcasted matches and more. I'm assuming that also means that there's going to be a bit of like a pregame show and like postgame and etc. So good coverage for that. And then the last thing, the funny thing, Tom kind of mentioned this already, but the Spurs manager Robert Wilhelm, I opened LinkedIn today, and the first thing I saw was a post, an article, just with a quote from him saying, "Should a woman have my job?" I'm just gonna say yes. I
Bro,
mean, we've
what?
we've we've
What?
talked about how the Spurs have done this season. And to be honest, like we haven't even mentioned once, like we've mentioned is Matt Beard's job in trouble, our other like managers' jobs in trouble. We haven't mentioned if Villaham's is. And maybe we should. Maybe that's a conversation to have later. But it's just funny that this should come up. And it we can maybe link the article in like our show notes, but basically the whole thing reads as I'm a father of daughters and it's my duty to like bring women up in this field and blah blah blah, show them the
Like,
way
showing
and
them how
show
to
them
be a shit
opportunities.
manager.
Yeah.
Got it. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was
For
like,
sure.
I'm sure he's a nice person. The
Is he?
intent is that I don't know. I'm just saying, like maybe it's good intentions, but it's just so funny the way it reads. And
I
I'm
don't
just
think,
like,
I'm gonna be honest. Like, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't know how good your intentions are when you hop on LinkedIn and the first lead going into what you're posting is like sarcastic, snarkily, should a woman have my job? Like, I don't know. Like, I do have to question like who you,
And
because that
so
seems wild, especially when you're in what? Let me see. Let me make sure I have this. So when I say this, yeah, when you're in sixth place, only 5 points clear of Liverpool. Like, Deepti's right. We've let Tottenham fly under the radar a little bit too long. This dude really wants to smoke to be sitting there talking that reckless for a team that has done absolutely nothing all year. Like, bro, just be happy we're not. Wow, that is crazy. Does
no.
he want out of Tottenham? Maybe this is like a 5-head play.
It's like, should I?
I don't, because it's that quote's just so weird. Like I don't know like why he leads in with that. What you're trying to accomplish with
Yeah,
that?
the lead in is just horrible.
Because
Like
like
the
the
whole
rest of
article
it,
itself is okay, but
yeah, like the rest of it, like okay, I'm gonna hire women because we need more women. Like we've talked
yeah.
about, we need more women as assistant coaches in order for them to get looks at actual, those opportunities. All that's great, but like, should a woman have? What are you talking, bro? Listen, two male managers have been sacked and been replaced by women this year
Mm-hmm.
already. You could be next. You could be next.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
And
And
actually,
look how much improved they are.
yeah, honestly,
So you really
those
want
two,
to ask those questions, bro?
those two sackings and replacements, bring it to a 50-50 split in female and male managers in the WSL now. So there's 6 of each. But yeah, it's funny. The article itself, like I was saying, giving him the benefit of the doubt because the stuff he's saying is actually okay in the sense he's like, yeah, I'm gonna hire the women over the men if like, obviously if they're on par and if I feel a woman is good for the role, I'm gonna hire the women because they need more opportunities and stuff. But just the title, the lead in, that quote, like, why? But anyway, that's all I have to say. I'll just answer yes to that question and move on.
Tom, you're on mute.
I
Tom,
need-
you're on mute.
I need everyone associated with this league and the championship. I need y'all to delete your LinkedIn profile
Hey, fast,
immediately.
real quick, yes.
Like, why is this is the second story this year involving LinkedIn that we have brought to this show. Do you all not see a problem with it? Like, why are you all on LinkedIn? Like, what kind of networking do you all need LinkedIn for? As footballers and football coaches,
You're posting
why-
like things, not even like
What-
job
what-
accomplishments. Like
Yeah.
you're posting art, like you're treating it like like what are we doing? We got Blue Sky for that. We skeeting over here. Why are you on LinkedIn? Treat it like Facebook. Cat
Oh,
memes
they
are
are.
coming next. Yeah, yeah.
We'll see who's next. We had Manu. now
Yeah,
we
there's
have
gonna. I feel like there's gonna be a
Robert.
next. That's the scary part.
yes,
See,
To be
we
like
will
fair-
see who's next.
Actually, we didn't bring the third one onto here, but yeah, Manu's thing was on there. This one's here, and then Jonas Idevall actually posted.
That's
he's like,
right.
got hired.
Yeah.
San Diego Wave,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why?
starting a
Who-
new job.
Who is following Jonas and these managers? Like, why would you follow them on LinkedIn? You want career advice? I don't.
Oh, it's too funny.
Jonas Idevall is the last person that I would want to take career advice from. I know that.
Just said.
Oh, dude.
I don't know. The PR spin for Jonas was crazy. He went from who I thought was very obviously a bad manager to everyone telling me to my face, actually, he's the greatest manager, and actually, it was Arsenal's problem. Which, again,
That
all I will
sounds
say
like
is look at Arsenal during Jonas and look at Arsenal now and understand that approximately 0.0 right. In fact, we've lost players and not really brought them in. So understand that aspect when you talk Jonas. It's crazy. Maybe you do want him as like a PR guru. Maybe he knows.
A PR, yeah.
That sounds like some very heavy copium to me. I don't know.
I didn't say it. I don't agree with it. I'm just
No,
saying.
I don't either. But well, I guess we'll see in March. But yeah,
I can't wait till
I will say
That's
one
a
more
different
thing about
conversation
this.
for a different day.
About this Villaham thing. I like me personally as a woman, it is so almost infuriating, but mostly just annoying. With the whole like I said the father of daughters thing, but just in general of like the men being like, "Oh, I'm such a good like I'm an ally now because of the women in my life." It's like you don't need to have women in your direct life to be an ally. Just like be a sensible human.
Yeah, right.
He's like, yeah, I have one son and one daughter. They're twins, and I feel like my daughter deserves the same chance in life as my son. Okay.
I have
Thank
4
you.
black friends.
Oh,
Right?
stop.
How can I be? I have 3 black friends. I'll have you know. How can I be racist?
Those F slurs over there are my friends.
I know 2 gay people. Please, okay. Let me stop.
Oh, man.
It has that energy though. It's like I'm a father of daughters. I have like okay, and bro, like
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
god.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right. This has gone a little off the rails. Okay. Well, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Hit that follow button to stay up to date when new episodes drop. Leave a rating and review if you can. We would love to hear your feedback, and you can hear more of these discussions that just go off the rails. There are 12 teams, 6 matches, 4 hosts. You're listening to the 12. Go update your LinkedIn's, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
It's me. I'm